All right, right. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here, man. So, how does somebody go from hating cardio, can't stand doing long distance, to actually enjoying it? What's that process?
Oh man. Well, I think that one of the biggest things that happens when people get into endurance training is that they really like learn a new approach. So, you know, kind of like anything in life, like if you just assume that you know the surface level info that's the right way to get you started, once you kind of dive into some of the specifics, you can realize that there's a lot of different ways to set yourself up for success, and whatever blueprint you might have been told isn't necessarily exactly what you need to do. So I think that two of the things that really help people lean into endurance are lowering their intensity when they get into training and going for time. Like those two things naturally guide cardio to be a more pleasant experience than what most people are used to, right? Most people are used to just going out and like, let's find that level that's right below hard and let's suffer for as long as we can. And if we're going slow, it's because we're out of shape and we need to be better. And we should work out fasted because we want to burn more fat and all these wrong perceptions. And so I think that just in the people that I've worked with, like being able to check down to go for a lower intensity and just like having a time goal, like going to run for 40 minutes, like it creates a bit of a shift in the mind as opposed to like 5 miles. I could theoretically get this done faster if I go harder. Whereas like when it's 40 minutes, like, you're just sort of in it for the long haul. You learn to flow with your emotions a little bit and you can't do nothing but let time pass, right?
Yeah, I know that's been a huge shift for me, was going from realizing that, like, oh shit, I don't have to be dead at the end of every single long distance cardio. That if I do slower pace, that I'm actually able to hold and enjoy that, thinking about doing it the next time isn't so bad. So do you recommend people not even like thinking about distance when first starting, just like you said, setting 30 minutes, 40 minutes and going however far they go? Or do you think they should track right away just to start measuring progress?
Yeah, well, something that you said kind of clicks on why we want to lower intensity and why we want to go for duration. So, a lot of times, if people are really pushing their intensity, they can't recover very quickly. And the body's too banged up because they're pushing high intensity exercise. They're probably not cooling down correctly. And like, we got to be respectful of how much rest the body needs to be able to absorb the fitness gains we're trying to get. And I'm forgetting what the second part of your question was. Oh, you're asking about if they should just go right into duration versus distance. Well, the other cool thing about endurance is that there's a lot of different ways to allow yourself to feel accomplished. So, like, believe me, I like taking down distance. So I might have a 90-minute run. My 90-minute runs lately, my endurance runs, I know they'll get me right around 10 miles, but I usually have to go for like 92 minutes, 93 minutes to hit.
Yeah.
So it's like I like to lean into that kind of stuff and I guide my athletes to do the same. Like we ultimately want to allow ourselves to feel good about the training that we're doing. We want to feel accomplished. And, everybody likes taking down big distances. Once you get a little deeper into endurance, there's a lot of different ways you can pull on different metrics, right? So like you could have a really good heart rate throughout your run, then that might be a huge win. Or you might have a really good cadence. If you're trying to work on your cadence, that's something I'm working on right now. So I can have a good run and it's like, I don't really care what my heart rate was. I don't really care what my distance was. Like, I just want to make sure that my cadence is good and I'm going for the time that I'm looking for. So I really like to allow people to lean into different things that will let them feel accomplished and make them pumped and excited about getting out for the next training session.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, something I heard in another podcast the other day. They're talking about just like thinking about how you can PR or just something to aim for every single session that, you're, for weightlifting, for instance, like you might not hit your bench PR every single week, but like if you look back and you're tracking, your training for the past year or two, that you can go back and find, your lateral shoulder raises for, 15 reps is your PR at 15 pounds. And so you do that 16 times, 17 times. So your PR in there. So it's always just finding that kind of little thing to focus on each time that keeps you going and keeps you moving forward. So that makes a lot of sense. And how'd you get into endurance, by the way? Have you always enjoyed cardio, or is this a newfound recent year thing?
So I would say that it's new, as in I got into it in my mid-20s. I played like every sport I could growing up. I have always loved playing sports. Really hasn't mattered which sport it was. I've leaned into all kinds of different sports throughout my youth. And I have not always been into endurance, but I will say that I've always had the ability to grind out a run. I did a
Mm.
couple of half marathons in my early 20s that were like around, raising some money for some charity events. And so that kind of held me accountable to showing up on race day and doing it. But I never really actually trained for anything. And I never understood anything about endurance until I got into it in my mid 20s. But the real reason that I got into it was, I was chasing this corporate success, and I was really allowing the other people in my life to determine what a successful life for Ryan looked like. I had a good job in Center City, Philly, had a really sexy LinkedIn title, was hitting all my sales quotas, bought a house, lived with my fiance or whatever. And there was just something in me that was just like, man, you're not living up to the potential that you have within you. And you're not as fulfilled as you can be. And for me, I think that I've had to really like accept that like sports are just a part of who I am. Like throughout my entire life, I've always loved playing. I've loved getting lost in the game. Like I've loved being the guy to step up to the plate in Little League when there's 2 outs and the game's on the line. And I, without really conscious effort, let sports totally fall out of my life in college and in my early 20s. I still played some intramurals in college, but I didn't play an intramural, or I didn't play a college sport. So I didn't have any routines of practice. I didn't have any dates on the calendar. I didn't have anything holding me accountable. And in my early 20s, once I got into the corporate world, I did play some beer league hockey, which I loved.
Mm.
But again, that was like, games are at 11 p.m. on Wednesday night, right? So I still got the spice of getting to play a game and compete and lose myself in the game and stuff like that. But I didn't really have like the holistic perspective of like thinking of myself as an athlete and having something that I'm working towards at all times and developing skills and having a routine and things like that. And the whole goal of getting into endurance for me was just, I wanted to do something big, right? And so the biggest thing I could think of was just finishing a 70.3. And so I decided to buy a bike and go for it. And I've written pretty extensively about that on my Substack and on my website. So I won't really go into all the details of that journey, but that's kind of the trajectory that I set myself on. And I ultimately just started to feel really good about myself once I got into endurance training. I started to feel really accomplished taking on big rides, big runs, and it really like changed my internal dialogue with myself. And that's really what's gotten me hooked.
Yeah, I know you focus a lot on the mindset and philosophy. Your Substack is Endurance Philosophy, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
title of it. Yeah, which I love. It's a great Substack. Everybody should check it out, and I'll link it below in the show notes. Why do you focus so much on the mindset part of it, or why do you think that's become such a big part of your coaching and just your mindset personally?
Yeah, well, my life has ultimately been determined by my mindset towards, whatever I was participating in. And my perspective has ultimately influenced my entire experience in life. And endurance has just given me an opportunity to strengthen my mindset and to prove to myself that I can be everything that I believe I can be. And another part of like kind of my personal growth journey was getting into philosophy, starting to read some stoicism. The Obstacles the Way was the first book that really like catapulted my personal growth journey. And I think that like there's just so many parallels between developing your mind and developing your body. And through endurance and through the consistent repetition of practicing patience, practicing discipline, practicing self-control, like these are all like mindset tactics that I get like a tactical thing to practice them with. And so that's like the thread that's worked out really well for me. there's a cool philosophy quote. It's something along the lines of like, would you be a great ruler? Rule over yourself. And that one like kind of hits for me because before I got into endurance, like I would constantly look around and like think that the world had it wrong, right? Like I think other people didn't see things correctly, and I think that my boss at work didn't do this right or all kinds of other shit. And learning philosophy helped me just focus my attention inward, and endurance forced me to just realize like, listen, nobody can do this shit but me. And that has ultimately kind of bled throughout my relationships, throughout my professional life. And it's kind of the tandem that I push and pull on and lean on different aspects of it for different benefit at times.
Yeah, I love that. Rule yourself. It goes along the lines of, stacking that undeniable proof of who you are, of just day in, day out, and endurance is that vehicle to prove to yourself that you have these skill sets, this mindset. But I would like to actually kind of go back a little bit and kind of talk about how your mindset has changed or just evolved over the years. Cause, I do know that it took you 7 years to graduate from college.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
which is personally, it's probably my favorite part of your story because it can show, if you think of like anybody who says they took them 7 years, you'll probably think like I was, degenerate, not doing much, and like probably doesn't have much going for him later in life, but, couldn't be further from the truth. And so talk about how you kind of thought about yourself during those 7 years. And now looking back from where you stand, was that just an inevitable part of the Ryan Dreyer story?
Yeah. So the reason that it really took me 7 years to graduate is because I just had zero connection with what I was studying. Like, I have always had success when I have been interested in what I'm doing. But because of like family pressure and this path that I was supposed to be following, like I was guided towards studying business, and I've always been interested in business, right? I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I personally like got to college and I kind of just like went wild. I started partying like crazy. I joined a fraternity. My grades weren't good enough to get into the business school. I kind of wanted to study English and lean into writing and maybe be sports journalist. Like that was kind of the direction I wanted to head. Like I always wanted to write for Barstool. Like
Mm.
that was my goal for so many years. And I think that why I kind of like struggled through understanding what's my life, what do I want to be doing? These people want me to be doing other things. Like I just like in hindsight, like it would have served me better if I just spoke up about what I was interested in and applied a lot more discipline to whatever that could be. And it's kind of tricky for me to say that because like I had a job at a golf shop growing up, and like that is where I poured all of my energy into. Like I was the employee of the year multiple times, like I excelled there. But there was for some reason like a big disconnect with like what am I supposed to study in school? What kind of career am I supposed to go lead? And what's this path that I kind of need to jump on board? Because there was like a lot of urgency that was kind of thrown into my life, I guess. Like I didn't really feel like I had a lot of time to figure things out. Like you got to figure out your major pretty quickly and all this other shit.
Mhm.
Um, so that was like kind of why I had some of that disconnect. And as a result of just not being interested in my classes, like I was just failing left and right. I was way more focused on partying, similar to my success at the golf shop. Like I was really involved in my fraternity. I held many positions and, I leaned into that aspect of my life. I was like, this is what I want to pour my heart and soul into. So this is what I'm going to do. And that just created a lot of turmoil between my grades stinking and a lot of family conflict with just being like very kind of up in the air on where my life was headed. So I think to highlight on just why it's taken me 7 years or why it took me 7 years, that's kind of like one aspect. But, kind of another aspect is like I spent, I guess, 4.5 semesters at Penn State. And then I moved to Nashville to chase my girlfriend at the time, now wife down there. And like I was finishing all my classes online, but like still hustling my ass off. Like I was working an unpaid internship for 40 hours a week. I was driving Lyft in the morning. I was valeting at a hotel at night. So like I've always had this hustle grind mentality, but like for me, it's always been like it only really comes out if I really have a lot of desire to excel in what I'm doing.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And it's funny though that like, we have these expectations of what other people expect of us. So I can very much relate to your own story of just like going to college because that's what I thought I was going to do. I got a business major because that's what I thought I was going to do. When I when I graduated from that, I went and got my MBA because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Just like, and then went to the corporate world because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Start climbing the corporate ladder because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And for me personally, it wasn't really anybody's actual expectations that they had on me. It was what I thought they were expecting of me. And so I was just putting this crazy internal pressure on myself for really no reason. And it led me down a path that I didn't want to be on. Even going back to like college, like I decided to be a business major. Like I wanted to do like exercise science, but as I go, business major, you make more money, you do this, blah, blah, blah. And so, we're able to very easily talk ourselves out of what deep down we know is the right decision for us because of other people's expectations. So was it other people's actual expectations or was it your own internal projections of their expectations that took you down some of the choices you made?
Yeah, there were a lot of expectations put on me from my family to like, major in business and stuff like that. And so like that did guide me. But like the other thing is that like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, right? And I think that something that, I've since learned is like the people around you will support you to the exact degree in your conviction and what it is that you want to do. And so like on one sense, like I did have a lot of influence on like, Ryan, you need to major in business because you need to go make a lot of money. And if you major in English, what are you going to make $40,000 a year? Like all this kind of shit like that. And like that, I don't think was super like helpful for my mindset. But at the same time, like I was just like very confused and unsure on exactly what I wanted to do. And I don't know, like, ultimately, I think everything is, working out for the right reason, and everybody kinda learns the lessons that they're supposed to learn along the way, but having conviction in your mission is something that I've really learned through experience, and whenever I talk with somebody, like, I was chatting with somebody the other day, and it was like, they really want to they really wanna lose weight, and they just wanna get their health together, and they wanna get their shit together. They wanna just start to dominate life and they know that they can, and the first question that I asked them was, "Who else in your life knows how important this is to you?" And they were quiet for 15, 20 seconds. And then they're like, well, I actually don't think anybody knows. And I'm like, okay, well, in your head, your friends are this huge obstacle because they like to drink beer and eat pizza every Friday night. And you see your wife as an obstacle because the shit she buys at the grocery store isn't in line with what you want to be eating. But you need to stop looking outward and expecting these people to change their behavior. You need to look inward and recognize, like, is this really like a chief desire of you right now? And if it is, like, fucking speak up about it and speak it into the world and let the people around you know how important this is to you. Because as soon as you do that, people flip, man. And not only do they flip, they all of a sudden like admire you for speaking up about what it is that you want to chase. So I don't even know that I could have applied that type of thinking like back when I was 18, 19, 20. Like I just needed to let loose a little bit and
Yes.
figure myself out. But like now when I talk to people that are in their mid 20s, even in their 30s, even in their 40s, like we need to be convicted in what it is that we want to do because life isn't just going to conform for us to naturally fall into success. Like we got to make it for ourselves and we got to speak up to the people around us and let them know like, hey, I want to get fit because I want to be a better husband and I want to be a better father and I want to show up better at work. And as soon as you say that, people are like, shit, man, this dude
This
has
guy's
some talk
serious.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. There's, a horde of people, especially on like our little space of Twitter, that talk about like, don't tell people your goals, go and, go dark for 6 months and, come back and then, be this new person. by doing it by yourself, where I couldn't, disagree with that more, where like, just like you said, that like, if you want to make something happen, like speak it, speak it into existence, and not in some like, manifesting type of way. It's just like, tell people what you want, and one that holds you to like social proof, or like, just like our innate default feeling is like, man, I just told a bunch of people that I'm doing this and like it matters to me. Now I don't want to look like an idiot to them. So it helps hold yourself accountable. But then, like you said, like 95% of people around you care about you and support you and want to help in any way that they can. But they can't help unless you know that you want to do something. And so speaking it into existence, what it is that you want, what you're focused on, is really the first step into that. And then it goes into, like you said, that certainty of just like knowing this is what I'm going to do, and here are the steps I'm going to take to get there. And for each person, that's different. And, gaining that determination over trial and error, I think is something that's super important. I know experimentation is something that you've done on yourself a lot, whether it's with your diet, with your training, whether it's with business, like different side hustles that you've tried. Can you just expand on that a little bit? Just like the importance of experimentation and trial and error to get to where you want to go?
Yeah. So to give a little bit of context, I'll talk about my nutrition experiments because I feel like they've had the biggest impact on me. So I mentioned that I loved playing sports growing up and I really excelled at sports, but I became pretty overweight as a kid and I grew pretty late as well. So I was like, 12, 13, 14, super chubby, slow, playing against dudes who have beards. And all of a sudden I'm not making any teams, right? And that's why I got big
Life
into
goes
golf.
quick.
But, as a result of that, like, listen, these things that we struggle with when we're younger, like, they stick with us. They fucking manifest in our nervous system. And so that is something that I still work on is my eating habits, my control around food. And for the longest time in my early 20s, mid 20s, I just tried to like suppress eating habits or cravings, like, eat less, don't drink as much, like just the very generic protocol. And like I'd have a little bit of success, but I'd always fall out of success and I'd always be yo-yoing and restarting the engine and wasting so much energy and just creating so much stress and anxiety around the situation. And what I realized is that if I turn something into an experiment where I'm trying to learn and I have some type of metrics to get feedback from and monitor, my behavior changes instantly. So, like for me, I did this carnivore versus plant based diet experiment in January and February of 2021. And literally in that November and December of 2020, leading into it, like my dessert treat would be like an entire tub of Turkey Hill cookie dough ice cream. So like I was getting into endurance, but like I still had eating habits that like I would let them come out at times, but like I would still do certain things that would like kind of gravitate towards eating habits I had developed in childhood. And then all of a sudden I threw in this carnivore challenge where I'm only eating meat for 30 days. I'm getting my blood work. I'm checking my Whoop scores, same plant-based. And like all of a sudden, like just the way that I thought about it and the way that I comprehended it became extremely different. And I was able to just like rise above so many like minute challenges that just seemed like insurmountable to me in the beginning. So that's like the number one thing that I've realized. And when I'm working with people these days, like if there's something that they want to really improve that they're struggling with, like I always encourage them to like, how can we make this something that we're like testing and observing? What is some kind of feedback that you can be getting on how this is impacting your life, your mindset, how you physically feel, right? Because I'm just not really, there's like ticky tacky stuff about willpower and stuff like that. But like ultimately, like I think you need to have some willpower, but like also we should try to be making things as easy as possible for us to succeed. And so that idea of just testing is been really valuable for me. And as in entrepreneurship, you're kind of constantly tinkering with the business, trying to improve it and iterating along the way. and any stagnation, feels like death. So it's something that I've kind of leaned into in a lot of different areas of life.
Yeah, I think it goes along the lines of like one, just like what gets measured gets managed. Like
Hmm.
you really don't know how something is affecting you or the effectiveness of whatever it is you're doing unless you're actually tracking it. You can have like your anecdotal evidence, but unless you actually like measure it one way or another, you really can't be definitive on whether it's something that you should continue doing or not continue doing. And then along the lines of this continual experimentation with whether it's business or it's your diet or training, it's like you have this, we all have, or we should hopefully all have this like ultimate goal of where we want to get to, whether it's losing weight, whether it's running, doing an Ironman, whether it's building your own business and stuff. But like getting from step A to step Z is one, difficult, and two, going to go 1,000 different ways, multiple ways that you never expected that it would go. And so being open to, again, just experimenting in a low effort, low cost way. I always like to think of things as asymmetric risk, where like you put in a little bit of effort, but the potential upside can be great. But if you fail, it's not the end of the world. And so it's just a way to continually dip your toes in the water to figure out what feels right for you. Because again, if you don't actually experience it for yourself, you truly don't know what is the right path for you. And so I know you've done a couple different things before tribal training, which is your current business, which we'll get into in a second. But, the one I do want to touch on briefly is Toasted Rye, the dog bandanas. I think it's just an awesome story. And, I love, there's a couple pictures that you posted of just you literally at the sewing machine, 26, 27 years old, however old you were when you're doing it, making dog bandanas. Something in this, like, especially internet age, everybody's trying to do an internet business. You're doing, again, sewing dog bandanas. It's a great story. But what did that experience teach you? Would you learn from it? And has anything you learned from that process kind of carried with you into your current business?
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks for asking about it. So Toasted Rye was basically my introduction into entrepreneurship. And I mentioned I wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life, but I was very stuck on this mindset of like just thinking that business needed to be this more done up thing than it actually needed to be. Like I was thinking like I need a big business plan. What's like my $1 million idea? Like all this kind of stuff that just made all these obstacles in my mind. And shortly after I got into endurance, I just had a extreme sense of confidence in myself. And I was like, fuck it, man. The only thing that I can think of right now is sewing dog bandanas and selling them. And the idea was inspired by this chick that we used to buy bandanas from when we were living in Nashville. And I used to see her business and I was like, she literally sews triangles and she has a credit card machine and that's it. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I got my sister's old sewing machine out of my mom's basement and just started hustling on it, right? I just wanted something of my own to just try to build and iterate on and play with. And right away, it was just like it gave me this new sense of light. It like just with this big burst of energy. And the big lesson that I learned starting Toasted Rye is just that entrepreneurship as a whole is just a constant development of skills. Like, sure, the idea can make a difference, but like it's more about like, are you the type of person that's showing up and doing this every single day? And are you developing skills along the way that progress the business? Like that's really what it is. And Toasted Rye wasn't making any type of profit, but I grew it from being on Etsy to being on Shopify. I was learning about promoting on Facebook. I eventually got onto Amazon FBA. I had these manufacturers in China where I went from like sewing my own bandanas to drawing stuff on my iPad and having them make it. And again, it wasn't making any money, but I like learned all of these lessons along the way. And I eventually decided I didn't really want to do e-commerce. I was kind of running into some issues with having to put up a lot of capital for product and meet minimum order quantities. And I'm messaging with these people in China, and it's just like, this is a total mess, but I'm loving it, right? It's like, this is the most enjoyable chaos ever. But there's one like really cool lesson that's definitely stuck with me. So I'm wearing one of the tribal training hats right now. And for Toasted Rye, like it was mostly dog bandanas, but like the other idea was that there was like matching gear for like dog dads, right?
Oh,
I'm like,
nice.
I had a chocolate lab, Jameson, like he was 2 or 3 or something. I'm like, I love buying him bandanas and I'd love to match him. So let me like get some stuff going like that. And so I always wanted running hats as well. So like there were always these seeds of like where I'd eventually end up, but I ended up working with this manufacturer in China to design these running hats. And the whole process was just like complete chaos. Like me messaging her my image files, me trying to like skimp on costs and all these small things that like just made the process really cumbersome. The hats came out fine, but like it was like, okay, well, if I'm ever doing this again, I'm not doing it like that. So eventually, you know, tribal training is my business now, and I wanted to get some like really quality run gear. And so the big lesson learned was like, listen, just pay a couple extra bucks, do business with a local manufacturer that you can directly engage with, whose first language is English, and just make this process just a higher quality experience for everybody involved, including your customers who then get the hats. So I use a company here in Boulder to make the hats. It's extremely simple. I send them, you know, the design files. I send them what my vision is for the hat. And it's just totally different than, you know, the woman in China who's messaging me on Alibaba who thinks that my toast logo is a tomato and all kinds of funny shit like that. I'm actually holding, oh, this is great, dude. So I'll riff a little bit. So I forgot that I've got the thank you card that they sent
Mm.
me here. So this is what the manufacturer in China sent to me after they delivered the hats. These came with the hats, and it's on like this little Snoopy post-it. Hi, Ryan. Very nice to work with you. The design come out to the real cap is perfect. Hope you like it. Wish hot sale and boom, boom business. Looking forward to working with you soon. Yours, Vivian, Guangzhou Reisman Headwear.
Oh, that is incredible. Vivian, what a doll.
Business go boom, boom. Right?
Yeah, that is amazing. Oh man. But it does go to show you like dog bandanas, endurance training, coaching, like probably couldn't be more further apart of like business ideas, but the lessons that you do in anything carry over as long as you allow them to, which is an extremely important lesson for again everything that you've gone through in life. But what that first dollar feel like? You know, I was saying you always want to be an entrepreneur. That first sale.
Yeah. So it's funny, you know, I hear people say like the first dollar that I made online completely changed my life. And for me, I don't feel that way
Yeah.
because my first dollars online came with a lot of fucking work. Like I remember my big like moment that I reflect on is I went on a bike ride, and while I was out on the ride, 2 hours or whatever, I had launched some kind of product promo. And so I came back after the ride and I had checked my phone and I had sold like 150 bucks of bandanas. So that moment, that was a big like, oh my God, I'm out riding my bike and making money. Like that's incredible. But the huge flaw in that business was that that meant I had to go sew like 10 dog bandanas, which like, dude, I was not cranking these things out quickly. So like that was easily multiple hours of work. And so like that was kind of just like a big tinkering process. That was kind of why I eventually decided I wanted to work with a manufacturer, but then I kind of got trapped up in upfront capital costs. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, I'm on Amazon. Now I have to learn Amazon ads. And it became a little bit more of a job to me. And I'll definitely get back to e-commerce. I mean, I already do e-commerce in some ways with tribal training between the hats. I got some sweatshirts for sale. I got gear, kits, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, as with kind of anything, like in the pursuit of finding out what you do want to do, it's really, really valuable to learn what you don't want to do. And so that was like just a big lesson is like, listen, at this time, e-commerce is not the direction of business that I want to head. But I mean, it was just like super motivating, just every day being able to feel a little bit of progress, whether it was like something as simple as like getting an update onto my Shopify store, right? And like, dude, there's nobody even visiting the store, but it's just like in my own mind, oh my God, I'm bringing something to life that did not exist and does not exist without me. So that process was really fulfilling for me, and seeing the physical bandanas. And I think that one of the biggest wins of that business was that I got in about 10 to 12 local retail shops in Philly. And so even though like the e-commerce sales, they weren't really flying off the shelves, like I did sell a decent bit of inventory. I got to shake hands with other business owners, and I just really got to feel like, hey, like I'm putting myself out there with something that I love, and I don't really care necessarily how it's doing right now, but like I'm in process, I'm learning, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's all about celebrating small wins along the way, right? If we have this goal of like becoming an entrepreneur and sustaining ourselves, until we get to that point, like again, that's a long way and there's a lot of steps to get there. And so in order to get to that ultimate goal is celebrating the small wins of like putting this new, carousel banner on my buy store or whatever it is. It's just like, because each thing is a learning step along the way. So again, just remembering that like you are creating something from nothing that won't happen unless you do it. And so you have to celebrate each step along the way in order to get to that ultimate goal.
Yeah, and just like having a business as a whole, like it really helped me change some of my behavior just because it like gave me something to lean into. Like, I was kind of growing tired of just doing the happy hour thing all the time. I was kind of getting tired of just showing up hungover to work. Kind of getting tired of like dreading Sunday because that meant Monday was coming, right? And just by inserting like a personal project like that, it gave me a lot of life, and it just brightened my perspective. So yeah, fun part of the journey, because at the time, like I didn't really feel that it was super successful or super productive, right? And like I saw other people's quote first businesses, and I'm like, this seems like shit compared to theirs. But like now in hindsight, it's like, oh, that really helped me establish the identity of somebody who just builds things and who shows up every day and who makes progress. And that's just what they do.
Yeah, it's, at the end of the day, kind of at the bare bones of its creation, creating something from nothing, whether it's a business or a blog or anything, sewing, if you like sewing or whatever it is, it's indulging yourself in something that is enjoyable to you and creating something from nothing. I think that's something that a lot of people miss out on. And it's like, not even something that you have to turn into a business if you don't want, but like go out and create something. Like, again, just the feeling of like, starting from nothing and then a couple hours, couple days, couple months later, whatever it is you're trying to build is there. It's a incredible feeling that is missed by most people, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
And so you're trying all these different businesses while working that corporate job. You're doing endurance training, running ultras, Ironmans. That's a lot of time in, a 16-hour span where we're awake. So, kind of walk me through how you manage your time and continue to manage your time. Because even now, continuing to do Ironmans and stuff like that, like training sessions are 3-4 hours a day. So what's your kind of just time schedule look like then where you're working the corporate job still and now that you're not?
Yeah, so back when I kind of got into all this, I was living in Philly and I was working an in-office job in Center City. So I'd get up early and train in the morning, and that might look like going to the pool for a swim, maybe running from my house, or maybe riding my bike in my basement. Probably like a 60-minute type of session, maybe a little bit longer, but not anything absurd. Then I would take the train into the city. On the train ride in, I would post an Instagram from Toasted Rye. I would be listening to a Gary Vee podcast. And then I would show up to the office. I'd probably drop off a bandana or two in the outgoing mail bin if I had some orders. I'd head up to the office on the 15th floor. And I just became extremely efficient with my time. Like I figured out what metrics were measured at work. What do people really care about? Like outbound calls and sales being closed. Boom. Like I kind of stopped dealing with like the in-office politics. I stopped wasting time at the water cooler. Like I was splitting my attention a little bit between like, okay, am I focused on all this business stuff going on at my corporate job with my scheduled calls on my calendar and all these things that I have going? Or do I have a few minutes where like I can quickly take 5 minutes and like make a lot of progress on something, 5 or 10 minutes? Or can I listen to a podcast that might give me some ideas for something I can do? Then I'd head home and, it wasn't even anything like wall to wall effort. It was just like I'd go home and instead of just like having drinks and throwing something on the TV, like I'd either sew bandanas if I had orders, or I would do something to build the business, right? And again, like people think that it's like so wall to wall, and it's really not. It was just like I figured out that like I can almost give like a burst of 15, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and like I can get really a lot done in that amount of time. And then like the other sort of like aspect of all of this is that like these things really lit me up inside. So like pouring my energy into them, like I got a lot of energy back. And, sometimes I'd have longer training sessions on the weekend where I'd go ride my bike outside and stuff like that and just sort of enjoy myself. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild in those early days, like, working a 9 to 5 corporate job, triathlon training and building a business. But it ultimately just showed me like, holy shit, man, if I'm like actually pretty dialed on the things that I care about, like it's not that challenging. It's just more about having the conviction in your mission to like let the dead weight of your life kind of fall off by the wayside. Like the 15 minutes of like bitching with your coworker at the water cooler about whatever the company is doing, like just a total energy drainer. And so like skipping out on that crap was a big deal for me.
Yeah, there's a great quote. I forget who said it, but it's like, life isn't short. We just waste a lot of time.
Yeah, I like Robert Greene has something on a lifetime versus dead time. And he basically says like, your commute could be dead time if you're just scrolling on your phone and doing nothing. But if you're listening to a podcast where you're learning or you're starting to get new ideas, like all of a sudden that is a live time where you're learning and developing. So I didn't really know of that concept back at the time, but now that I look back at hindsight, I'm like, oh, that's kind of what I was doing. And I guess like now life looks a lot different, right? Because now I've moved to Colorado. I own my own business. I don't work for the corporate job anymore. So I have a little bit more freedom with my days. I guess like the overall like kind of thing that guides them or when I'm jumping on calls with my clients and the athletes that I work with, that kind of dictates like when I need to be at a certain spot at a certain time. And outside of that, like I'm fitting in my training. Like I just went on a 90-minute ride this morning, but I had a call with a guy at 11:30. So I sort of snuck it in from 10 to 11:30. I jumped on the call right with him, grabbed a quick bite to eat, then hopped on here with you. So I really like hustling around and kind of being on the move. And I filmed a bunch of videos for my online community this morning. So I spent like an hour doing that. Then I jumped out on the ride. Then I come back and have a call. Then I grab lunch. Now I'm hopping on a podcast. I have a couple other business things that I'll be building out this afternoon, just related to like projects that I'm working on inside the community. So it's a little bit less like super structured day by day. I do find a lot of value in just like allowing myself to just like not have a ton scheduled so that I can just like think openly and brainstorm on ideas. That's like a big mental shift that I've had since coming from a corporate job is like in a corporate job, like, it's almost like you're proud to have a full calendar, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that guy's super busy. He must be getting a lot done. And what I have come to realize is like, I like kind of the rush of having like a couple hour block where I'm kind of fitting in a lot of stuff. But if I'm just nonstop, like scheduled for something, it doesn't really give my mind the opportunity to just sort of like flow with the ideas that I'm thinking through. What am I reading lately? How am I trying to translate it to the business? Stuff like that. So that's a little bit of an insight to my day to day.
Yeah. It's all about managing priorities, right? At the end of the day, we probably have each 3, 4 things that we need to do throughout the day, whether that is in a corporate job or just working for yourself or just like chores that you have to do as a parent, as a, significant other, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, like, as long as you get those 3, 4 things done, like that is considered a successful day. And then again, a lot of the time it's just wasted, whether it's scrolling social media, or the typical Netflix stuff that everybody loves to bag on. And like, I think there's plenty of time to do that as well. But again, it's like, what is the ultimate goal? Where you're trying to get? And how are you going to prioritize the things that get you from point A to point B to point C throughout your day in order to get every single one of those things done?
Yeah, I think about that as like playing offense versus playing defense on life, right? Like I had a guy that I was working with back in the fall, and he was training for his first 70.3, and he jumped on board. I'm training him. We're having a really strong first like 2 weeks or so. He's loving it. And then all of a sudden, like he starts to miss a couple of training sessions, and two turns into three, and then maybe one gets looped back in. But now all of a sudden, like there's a block of 1 to 2 weeks where like we've really fallen off course. So sort of check in with him, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's going on in your life? And so he's sort of like, hey, like I got this family thing popped up, and then I had to go to this sports game with my friends, and then I had this other thing with this other commitment, and he's feeling himself get pulled in all these different directions. And I'm like, listen, like life is not going to make time for you to do a 70.3. It's not going to make time for you to start a business. If you increase that conviction, and if you play offense a little bit on inserting that conviction into your schedule, making it apparent in your relationships, like all of a sudden, like the sea becomes parted, and all of a sudden it becomes clear how you can fit something in. But it really just like starts with like, listen, like, do you want to do this? Okay, yes. Well, then we need to like be really rooted in what we want to do, because really everything related to triathlon, related to business is like, we need to be able to keep our word to ourselves. And if we want to choose to pursue something, this like flaky, wishy-washy shit that I got stuck in and a lot of people get stuck in, I think it just comes down to like being convicted in your mission, playing offense a bit with your schedule and with your time. And once you do that, like it's just a complete perspective shift, and you realize like, I actually can fit in 70.3 training. I actually can fit in starting a side hustle. But I just sort of had to say that that's what I wanted to do, because otherwise life was just going to keep throwing shit at me like it does with absolutely everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And it also comes down to like, again, priorities of like, you're still going to get bombarded with 1,000 different opportunities. What is it, the things that you're going to say yes to, and what are the things that you're going to say no to? Because yeah, it's not going to just be handed to you. Oh, here's a clear 2-hour block every day from 6 to 8, perfect timing right after you get off work to go train. But you got to make it work. You got to prioritize what it is that you want and make that priority the priority. So is that something that like kind of the main thing that most of your clients that you work with have trouble with? Is, I don't know if that's the right word, but is that a big, just time management at the beginning of starting a 73 or any type of endurance event?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the first things that we work on is like just their mindset towards training and their lifestyle approach. My effort is really to help them simplify everything that they have going on and remove all kinds of decision making. We don't want to have like decision fatigue throughout the day. So like really simple examples would be like setting out your swim gear the night before you need to go swim in the morning, so that you're not spending that 15 minutes racing around the house, trying to find your bathing suit, trying to find your goggles. Do you have a water bottle? All of a sudden you've wasted all this mental energy. You're stressed. Then you go swim. Maybe the session is okay, but like you carried all this emotional baggage into it. And then all of a sudden, like that just leads into the rest of the day, right? So it's like getting ahead of some of that stuff, simplifying meals, simplifying meal timing. Those are some of like the introductory things to work on. And just ultimately like helping people realize that the difficulty of endurance training isn't like the intensity of the session. The difficulty of endurance training is staying committed and stacking 7, 8, 9 sessions a week for 12 weeks in a row. And that's where the progress is going to come. So it's very process driven. It's very routine driven. And those are some of the things that we get into before we even really want to talk about training metrics, right? Because the training metrics, like they'll be there when we want to get to them. But like, I have some people that I've started with. I've got a guy in Cleveland right now. He's in his early 40s, father of two, was a college athlete, hasn't really done anything athletic in the past 20 years. And he's training for an Olympic try. So he's only doing like 4.5 hours of training a week. Like, it's not anything crazy. His bike rides, he's doing on his Peloton. He's going to the pool once a week. Like, it's pretty basic stuff. But just through the routine and the consistency, like literally in 2 months, he has more energy than he's had since college. And I've got another girl who's been on the team since December, and she's never done anything related to a 70.3 before. And she just crushed 3 months of 70.3 training and was the top salesperson on her team.
Dang.
And so it's like people start to see and realize this energy paradox where it's like when we pour into something that makes us feel good, we leave it feeling charged up. And I mentioned that earlier, I think, but that's kind of some of the stuff that I like to work on with people in the beginning. Really, like, meeting them where they are is kind of the main thing. Like, if you want to go find a templated plan online, like, I'm sure you can go find something that's not that different from the training plan that I have. Mine's more custom to you, of course, and I have different dials I like to pull on. But really, like, the value of coming into my squad or working with me is like, hey, all right, Matt in Cleveland, like, the pool is 30 minutes away. Okay, we're just going to have you go there once a week. We're not going to have you go there 2 or 3 times, right? You've only got a Peloton. Okay, well, let me set you up for success on that. We'll worry about you getting a bike when the weather turns around. We'll worry about getting a trainer then, right? My girl, Katrina, who I was just speaking on, like, same kind of thing with her, right? She's actually a type 1 diabetic, so we're working on some nutrition things with her. She's a woman, so she's got her cycle. So there's all kinds of different things that it's like we're kind of in the weeds on these individual needs. And it's very different than like, hey, you want to do a 70.3? You need to go run for X amount of miles today, because that's not really how we look at it.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Comes with personalization and identifying like where the major boulders are, and stop focusing on the pebbles of these things and focus on the things that actually are going to make the biggest impact on where we're trying to go. So what do you find most of your clients, why are they signing up for some sort of endurance event?
Yeah, well, I think that it's a natural human desire to want to evolve and develop and grow. Some of the philosophy stuff that I lean on, like, that's a big Aristotle thing. Like, the world is in a constant state of change, and that includes us. And the same way that the tree wants to take in sunlight and take in water and take in nutrients from the soil so that it can grow upward and outward and expand its influence on the world, we have an internal desire that mirrors that quite well. So some of these people that I'm working with, like, they're chasing that finish line moment. Like,
Mm,
they want to transcend as individuals. And they have the awareness to know that they need to apply some pressure to their lives in order for that transcendence to take place. Because what you get out of doing a 70.3 or doing an Ironman is very different than, sticking to some kind of just like habit plan or weight loss plan or whatever it may be. And through that whole process, it's just the constant refinement of helping people realize that they have more than they might think they're capable of. Instilling confidence, instilling self-belief, and setting them up to have that transformative experience, right? Like Adam Sikora, 270
legend.
pounds, did a strongman show in February, does endurance training with me for 9 months. His resting heart rate comes down 30 beats. He crosses an Ironman finish line, and he transcends as an individual. He's got the team around him. He's got family members everywhere. People are crying, cheering, hugging, high-fiving. It's midnight, right? So just like having the courage to step into something that pulls that out of you, I think is just definitely a huge theme amongst my team. I was just chatting with my guy, Matt, earlier today, and he just did a 70.3 Galveston down in Texas. And it was his first 70.3. And he's just, talking about how it makes him feel to do that with his family there, with his kids there, seeing him. His parents came. It's really, a lot of people see endurance sports as an individual thing, but there is an enormous sense of community with it. The amount of suffering that goes into it is it is extreme, but through that suffering, like, you bond deeply with people and you kind of get right to the connection. And whether it's someone that you just meet at a race for the first time or whether it's a volunteer on the course, like, he left with a story of this guy from New Jersey who was 70 some years old and doing his like 50th or something like that. And they passed each other on the run, and the old guy is cheering on Matt and encouraging him to push on. And there's all kinds of little stories like that that everybody always takes from a race. Like, no matter who it is or what the race is, like, there are always experiences where it's like, oh my goodness, I met this person. We had this really cool exchange. And like, when I think about that race now, like, not only am I going to remember that extreme sense of accomplishment for myself, my family being there, but like, I'm going to remember that human connection where like me and the old guy from New Jersey, like, had a moment together where we shared some energy and he pushed me on to go get something out of myself that I had never pulled out of myself before.
Yeah, it's a self-selection process, right? Like, it takes a special kind of person to sign up to want to do an event like that. And just by you all being there and signing up, you already know you have something in common with that person. You already know that
Yeah,
you can
just like the
connect with that
courage, I
person.
think, is the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I don't think anyone has ever crossed that finish line of any endurance event, especially like an Ironman or something like that, and has walked away from it, a lesser person, feeling like, oh, why did I do that?
Totally.
And it, like you said, transcends across every other aspect of their lives too, which is why I love like health and fitness in general. It's just like, if you want to like start changing your life in any like fashion, start with your health and your fitness, whether it's working out to lose weight, whether it's doing an Ironman or something like that. It is the most tangible thing that you can see that shows I put in this amount of effort and this is how my life is transformed, how my body is transformed, how I just conquered an Ironman. And you start to put two and two together. Whoa, if I put this same type of effort into other aspects of my life, whether it's my job, whether it's my relationship, whether it's anything, that's going to change as well because I'm putting conscious effort into it.
Yeah, it's really cool to see people, I think a big one is like people learn to handle stress better. And that's something that I have developed in endurance myself. Like, I used to be super reactive. And I think that the way that the world is set up now, like, we can get anything on demand, right? We can put anything on the TV that we can get any food from anywhere. It's any kind of immediate stimulus. And just by like being on long runs, being on long rides, being on long swims, being out in nature with no input, no headphones, just me and my thoughts, like, I have had to go through moments where it's like my mind is screaming for me to turn around and go home, to stop pedaling, to do anything but keep going. And just like learning that you can flow with those emotions. I can feel that and breathe myself through it. And then like seeing tangibly that that makes me less reactive in my marriage. And now I have more peace in my own home. Those are like the real reasons why it keeps me coming back, is because like this is mental training. Like, that's why I like to lean on the philosophy of it. Like, I am becoming a better person through endurance. And that's just like, one of the best parts, again, to work with people and help guide them through it. Right. Is that like, I can help set them up to become who they want to be and to achieve things they want to achieve.
Yeah, that voice that tells you to turn around can get loud too.
Yeah, dude.
It can get loud, and and it's easy to like be like just succumb to it, to surrender to that voice. But yeah, through this just constant testing of yourself, you're able to realize that voice is fleeting, and as long as you keep going, it will get quieter, and you will continue to get closer to your goals. And so it's overcoming that just initial voice that is screaming at you.
Yeah, and, like, on the bike specifically, like, it's really cool for me to have experienced, like, I could be in a real shitty spot in 2 hours into a ride or something like that, right? But like a few minutes later, like I could feel amazing and I can totally get it back, right? And so like it's just really taught me that, it's not about suppressing emotions. And like it's okay to get angry and it's okay to be frustrated and it's okay to like feel stress, but to just like sit with those and allow that to flow a little bit has been really valuable for me. I mean, endurance, I kind of like to teach my athletes, like endurance is a disruption strategy. Like if we're just going through the same behavior day in and day out, going to the same job at the same time, going to the same gym, doing the same thing on Friday night, seeing the same friends on Saturday, watching the game on Sunday, like those mental loops just create themselves. And it's very challenging to break any patterns of thinking, any patterns of behavior. And so endurance serves as a disruption strategy because basically lets you experience new things without preconceived expectations. Like I'm out on a ride in a new area of town. I don't know where I am. Like all of a sudden, like I have a more open mind. I'm a little bit more observant. I'm a little bit more in tune with how my body feels. And I think that a lot of people, maybe they'll see me now and be like, well, he lives in Colorado. Of course he gets to do that. And it's like, no, I was doing this in Philly. Like when I was living in Philly, like I would go just leave my house and just see where I wanted to run in the middle of the city. I'd run across the Ben Franklin Bridge and be like, damn, this is cool. I'm running across the whole bridge and then back. Like I'd run down into South Philly and I'd see some of like the old historic district, go over to the Rocky Step, I'd run on Kelly Drive. And so all of a sudden, like you're starting to experience these new areas around you, whether it's through swim, bike, or run. And that disruption strategy just like really opens up your thinking. And if you're somebody who wants to like create new mental patterns, you need to create these disruption strategies. And endurance is just one. Like there's a couple other options that I know of, like ice baths are a good example. Like that's a physical change of state and that can create new mental loops. And so as we're kind of just like mapping this back to how it changes behavior, how it changes thinking, like I think that that's the key principle. And that's something that I just like to share with my squad.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It just heightens awareness in general of yourself, your surroundings, the emotions that you're feeling. And again, it's not suppressing those emotions, but it's accepting the emotions for what it is. But whatever that emotion is, if it's negative, continuing to move on, continuing to move forward.
Totally.
But, last two questions here for you. Real simple. One, what's the best steak in Philly?
Oh, easy. Anthony's.
Anthony's.
Oh, well, you're asking steak or cheesesteak?
Cheesesteak.
Oh, Anthony's. Easily Anthony's. Anthony's is the best cheesesteak. I guess it's theoretically South Philly, but it's a little bit like Queen Village. Have you been there?
No, I don't think I've ever been to Anthony's.
Oh man, it's a home run. It's a pizza shop, but they got steaks as well.
Oh,
Yeah, man, it's big time.
dang. I'm going to back to Philly this weekend, so I'll have to hit that
Nice.
up. Yeah.
What's
Dang.
what's your favorite spot?
I'm a Dale Sanders guy. Classic.
Okay.
Classic.
So I don't want to start any beef here, but I was not impressed with the D'Alessandro's bread. So, us Philly guys, man. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
bread's
a big
big.
bread guy. And Anthony's, they do it right. It's been a couple of years since I lived in Philly, so I'm forgetting where they get their bread from. But that is, man, the sound, the crunch, it's good stuff.
Yeah, bread's always important. If I had to go like my favorite like overall sandwich, it's John's roast pork, the roast pork,
Oh, yeah.
which is again another can't miss.
What is it? The Knicks that's in Reading Terminal? Is that what the Knicks roast pork?
Yeah, the next.
Yeah, I don't know if I have had John's. I definitely have had the Knicks many, many times. The broccoli Rob. I mean, come on.
Yeah, always a hit. Then the second question is, what is the ultimate goal that you are trying to get with your clients, trying to teach your clients beyond, completing their event? But if you had every single client walk away with a perfect experience working with you, what does that kind of end goal look like?
Yeah. So I think that every client that comes to me has external challenges and internal challenges. And the external challenges might be something tangible, like they don't know how to train for an Ironman. They don't know how to swim, something like that. But the internal challenge is a bit more important. And it's the same kind of things that I've struggled with, right? Like it's the self-doubt. It's the feeling that I'm meant for something big, but I'm not getting something big out of life right now. And I want to take control and I want to separate from the pack and I want to rise above this average that just seems to be weighing me down, but I'm having a hard time doing it. The clients that I feel most like gratified by, and I feel we have the most success in our relationship, are the ones who transcend those doubts and those inner battles and who rise above them and who do accomplish big finish lines and accomplish big feats, but really like change their perspective of themselves in the process. You know, this is a bit of a spiritual journey, this endurance journey. Like an Ironman could be a 17-hour day for you. Like a 100-mile ultra is going to be more than a 24-hour effort. Like we're going somewhere in our minds, in our bodies, and in our spirits that is not easily accessible. And I take that seriously. And I think that that's the most important part of all of this, right? And the really cool thing is that, like, listen, it doesn't have to be an Ironman or a 100-miler for a lot of, like, I just spoke about that Katrina girl that I work with. Like, she just ran a half marathon this past weekend, her first half marathon, and it has transcended how she sees herself. Her Instagram said something along the lines of like, I know I did it, but I still can't really believe it.
Mhm.
And so it's like seeing like that kind of stuff is like, man, I feel really fortunate to be in this spot. And I've had a lot of people help me along the way, and a lot of athletes believe in me back when I was just kind of kicking things off. And that's kind of the mission. And now it's cool because, you know, I've got sort of the community vibe going on, and I've got athletes who have met each other in person at training camps, at races. And so now they're friends online and they can support each other and they can see each other doing things and feel motivated and feel pushed. And ultimately just like creating a big vessel for encouragement and achievement is, I guess, sort of what my mission is without me having an exact finger on it. But I think that kind of got to the point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it. And no better person to take people on that journey than yourself. I think watching your journey over the past, however long we've been connected now on Twitter and stuff, year and a half or so has been awesome to see, move out of the corporate world onto your own business and, killing the endurance events as well. And just everything you're doing with, Substack, your gears, fire is fire. And so it's just awesome to see. And can't wait to continue to watch everything that you build over the next, you know, 10, 100, 50 years. So
No doubt, dude. I'll be excited when we get together in person. Are you going to Do Hard Things conference?
I'm still up in the air on that one. Hopefully,
Okay.
not 100% sure on that yet.
Cool. Well, that's probably one spot I'd be able to see you, but we'll be connecting at some point, no matter what.
Absolutely, man. And if people want to connect with you, I'll have links everywhere tagged below in the show notes. But what's the best place to reach out to you if they want to hear more about your story, want to get involved with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, my business website's the best spot, traintribal.com. You'll link to it. Highlight some of my athletes on there. I highlight kind of the mission behind the biz. And there's some links to some of my writing that tells a little bit more of my story as well. So that's kind of the one-stop shop.
Love it. Traintribal.com. Check it out. And again, will be linked below. But again, Ryan, thanks for coming on. It was a blast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude. Appreciate it.